You are once again welcome to Evangelist Imakalu TV, Treasury of Excellent Knowledge. This evening, before I will go out, I want to teach on part 6 of taking risk in the Lord. I can see your presence and your reaction, Deacon Uche Onwadike. You are welcome. May God bless you and those who will be joining later, and those who will be listening and watching this video thereafter. I want to teach on the topic, as I've said. This is part 6 on taking risk in the Lord. And the sub-caption is the ordeals. The ordeals. The ordeals is the bad experiences, bad encounter. But the challenges, storms, and what do today, previously I have been highlighting on the storms to encounter while taking risk in the Lord. But this lesson is emphatic on elaborating on the risk, on the ordeals, that is the hard experiences. The essence of this lesson is to keep on motivating the disciples in Jesus Christ to take heart, to be more courageous, to know that certainly discipleship is not just a bed of roses. And nothing is free in this life. There is a price for everything. Everything you are enjoying, maybe believing that it is free, it is because you do not know that someone or some other people had paid the price for it and you are enjoying it for free. One of the reasons many Christians do not go far is their misconception of the relationship that take people so far with God. In the gospel, there are two aspects of this Christian gospel. One is the gospel of salvation, the other is the gospel of the kingdom. The gospel of salvation is the gospel that pulls people away from sin and bring them into repentance and the acceptance of Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And from there, they develop faith, the faith that Jesus Christ had paid the price to emancipate all humanity, and whosoever that should believe in him shall be saved. That is, whosoever that should believe in the reality of Jesus paying the price to save humanity from sin, and for those who believe in him to live for him, to live according to his principle, that as such should be saved forever. And that is, the soul of the repentant sinner should be saved. Then the other dimension of the Christian gospel is the gospel of the kingdom. The gospel of the kingdom is the gospel, the dimension of the gospel that makes the repentant Christian to become a disciple under Jesus Christ. Many people have repented. Many people are born again in the churches everywhere, but they are not disciples. Even as I speak, many pastors, many prophets, many evangelists, many bishops, many archbishops, many doctors in the Lord are yet to become disciples. They are not disciples yet. And one of the reasons is because they have not come to understand that becoming a disciple have some ugly experiences one must encounter. Even Jesus Christ set the example. So when one cannot understand this, the person cannot really take the step. The person cannot really make the move to achieve some purposes that will trigger the person into excellence in the Christendom, in his relationship with God, or in her relationship with God, and in the person's achievement or the person's greatness as a Christian. The gospel of the kingdom is the gospel that makes the Christian believers to reign as Christians. One thing is to be saved. Another thing is to reign as a Christian. Many people are saved as Christians, but they do not reign as Christians because they do not operate in the gospel of the kingdom. They are limited to the gospel of salvation. They are so conscious of being saved from sin into the life of righteousness, and they settle there. So that is their own business. That is their own business. I will not, there is no reason to condemn or to blame everybody for celebrating that first phase, or let me use the word, to celebrate that mediocrity. But I will also motivate, and that is exactly what I am doing. So today's lesson is focused on the ordeals, the hard encounters of taking risk in the Lord. So the risk takers are the disciples. So when you are taking risk in the Lord, some of the great challenges you must have, and without overcoming them, you cannot go to the greater heights. So our relationship with God has to do with examination, tests. There are examinations, there are tests that we encounter, and these tests come in different ways. And we are being promoted for passing from one class of that relationship of discipleship with God to a higher class. There are promotions and there are ranking. I'm not just talking about in the heaven, I'm talking about here on earth. And this ranking are determined by the level of personal relationship with God. There are people who can achieve what others cannot achieve right inside of the church, right in the Christendom, right with God. God gives everybody opportunity, the equal opportunity, equal time, equal grace. But what makes the difference is how some people use their own time, their own opportunities, which God has given to them, the grace which God has given to them from others, how each of us use our time, our opportunities to engage, to invest. How are we committed? How resolute are we? And what activities do we engage with our time, with the grace God has given to us? What kind of activities? Are they very cheap activities, or are they excellent activities? That is, activities can take one to excellence. Or are they ungodly activities? These things they have to do. Then, are we trapped by fear of failure, or by fear of intimidation, or by fear of whatever? So when a Christian is being limited, intimidated by fear, the Christian cannot really go far, because God cannot force anybody to go beyond the person's decision. Rather, God always promised that if you are willing to go, he is able to keep on protecting you, and no weapon fashioned against you shall ever prosper. Every tongue that should rise against you in judgment, in the process of taking risk in the Lord, with your own mouth, with the power of your own word, inspired by God, you should condemn such a tongue. Those tongues should be condemned, and by then you begin to trample upon serpents and upon scorpions, which are the spiritual, the spiritual diabolism, and whatever, all those obstacles, every kind of strategy of the enemies to bring you down, you trample upon them and you continue and you become unstoppable. That is what Jesus Christ is declaring. The Ordeals, section 6, the Ordeals. The first one is seemingly jeopardizing personal life and that of God's people. When you are taking risk in the Lord, it will be as if you are jeopardizing your own life. You are jeopardizing the life of the people of God. That is the first ordeal. That is how it will appear. And that is exactly how an average human being will understand it and interpret it. But what matters is, in the end justifies the means. What should be the end, the receiving end? What should be the end result? That is what really matters. That is where you will focus. Whom are you working with? Who is God to you? And where is he really taking you to? And what should be your destination for taking risk in the Lord, irrespective of those jeopardy that you may encounter? Seemingly jeopardizing personal life and that of God's people. That is the first one. Esther and the Israelis and the leper. Esther, Mordecai, and Esther, all of them put together, it was as if they jeopardized their life. Esther jeopardized her own life. She seemingly jeopardized her own life by breaking the protocol to meet with King Ahasuerus to demand for the protection of the Israelis against the rule of that kingdom. She jeopardized, say, if I perish, I perish. Mordecai also seemingly jeopardized his own life by saying that he would not bow to worship a mere human being in the name of Haman, who was just promoted by a carnal and worldly king, and his worship must belong to God. In the process, the life of the entirety of the Israelites in that land were jeopardized. They were jeopardized. So these are part of the ugly experiences. Then that is, then we can talk about the king, the Elisha, then, and the Israelis and the leper. Elisha, while Elisha was promising the Israelites, while he was promising the Israelites God's protection, it seemed that he was jeopardizing. He was telling them that those Syrians cannot do them anything. To the Israelis, it was just like a mere dream, or just like a mere confession, or a carnal confidence. It will seem to be jeopardy, but miraculously, God blinded the Syrians and they could confirm it. The leper, the outcast, those who were outcast due to their leprous condition, due to their contagious sickness which they had, they took the risk, they jeopardized their own life. They said they should go to the camp of the Syrians, that if they allow them to live, they should live, than to die of hunger by speculating and fearing that people will kill them in Syria if they go. That was the final option they had at that moment. It seemed that they jeopardized their life, but success was their end result. And we'll see that according to the decree of Elisha, the food were available and the following day in Israel, and they were so cheap that even the poorest among the people of God could afford to buy himself and his family, herself or her family, some food for them to eat and for a period of time before God reset the situation of that land into their own benevolence. So on that issue, you should be reading 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 20 to 33, 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 1 to 18. Then the case of Mordecai, Esther, and the Israelites, you should be reading Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 6, and verse 8 to 15. You read also Esther chapter 4, 8 to 18. Then we talk about David versus Goliath. David jeopardized his own life and the life of entire Israel to take the decision and to make the move to confront and to fight with Goliath and to defeat him. It was a jeopardy when it is viewed with human perspective, but in the spirit realm, it was not a jeopardy because the presence of God was with David. So God was in control of that condition. So, brethren, do not be afraid of the ordeals. Continue with your journey of discipleship in your relationship with God. Then, regarding to David, that is 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 41 to 48. Then also Daniel and his Hebrew friends, they jeopardized their own life. They jeopardized their life by saying they could not bow to that golden image of Babylon according to the order, irrespective of whosoever. They jeopardized their own life. And his Hebrew friends, which are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were thrown into fire, while Daniel was thrown into a lion's den. But in the end, they were victorious. God protected them because God had a purpose for that. Even if they should die in that process, they had also declared, so be it. Even if that God should not save them, so be it. And they should not bow to any other God except the real God. Then, regarding Daniel and his Hebrew friends, that is Daniel chapter 3, verse 8 to 15, and verse 27 to 30. Daniel chapter 6, verse 11 to 18, verse 19 to 24. The second one is attracting human and satanic wrath to self and to God's people. When you are taking risk in the Lord, one of the ordeals is you will be attracting the wrath of man, the wrath of human beings, and the wrath of Satan to yourself and to the people of God. This thing must happen. One of the reasons many churches are not under pressure is because they have not begun to take risk in the Lord. They are just there observing ceremonies, religious ceremonies, activities, but discipleship, there is no effectiveness. They have not rise up to let their light shine, to influence the world with the true godliness. So there are many churches are still under satanic control, under satanic influence, as far as the activities going on in those churches do not glorify God, and it is still worldly and satanic. So Satan do not worry about such people because they are already into his captivity. But whenever anyone gets up and want to bring a change, that means the person is beginning, first of all, the person is pulling himself or herself out from satanic captivity and from the captivity of the worldlings. And at the same time, the person is about to begin to pull others out of the captivity of the worldlings and of the devil. So they will begin to fight. Their wrath will begin to rise against the liberator, against the self-emancipators, the liberators, against the champions who want to win for themselves and to win for others. So that is the reason when Jesus came to emancipate humanity, the wrath of Satan, the wrath of the world was aroused against him, and in the end, they connive together to crucify him. Your case is not different. If you do not know this reality, you as a child of God, you who want to become a disciple, if you do not know this reality and begin to live by this reality, you cannot really advance. You will relax in your comfort zone. So discipleship is not made for those who have decided to relax in their comfort zone. It is for those who want to advance, who want to progress, who want to create greater impact, not only on themselves, but to influence others with the impact which they create. So you must know this. You are to arouse satanic and humanly wrath while you are taking risk in the Lord. Esther, Mordecai and Esther, that is what they did. Mordecai and Esther, they aroused the wrath of human, the wrath of Satan. Satan was manifesting through Haman and those who were supporting him, that the entirety of the Israelites in that land of Shushan should be annihilated just because one person refused to bow, even when it is wrong to bow to him, because one person, Mordecai, refused to bow to him. They wanted to wipe out, to massacre, to commit a pogrom against the Israelites in the land of Shushan. What a wicked war. What a satanic influence in the life of humanity. Humans becoming instrumental in the hand of Satan to destroy God's agenda, to be destroying God's people. And this is exactly what has been going on all along until today, and so it continues. So don't expect it to just stop any day. It cannot stop. It is only for you to prepare yourself if you want to advance, if you want to go beyond the level of mediocrity into the level of discipleship. If you want to join the champions in the Christendom, this is the awareness that I am creating for you. And this is a bold step you must take. It is not by power, it is not by might, but it is by the power and the inspiration of God through the Holy Spirit. You can do it. Esther did it. Daniel did it. Mordecai did it. So a lot of people, Paul, Apostle Paul, Jesus Christ himself, Peter, all of many faithful people, Stephen, they all did it. They encountered it and they were successful. So your case is no different. Don't mind what people will say. Don't be afraid of the threat of the enemy. Just begin to make the right decision. Begin to take the bold step, and the presence of God must certainly be with you. Begin to read Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 6, verse 8 to 11. Then Daniel and his Hebrew friends, Daniel chapter 3, verse 8 to 15, Daniel chapter 6, verse 4 to 11. The next one, attracting worldly conspiracy against self and the church. The world will begin to conspire against you. The world will begin to conspire against you. The world conspired against the entire Israelites due to Mordecai taking risk in the Lord. So the world, even Daniel was not only the target. The target was to end the true worship of God in the land of Babylon. But Daniel was used as a case example. Satan was in control of the mind of those who set Daniel up. And the same Satan influenced King Nebuchadnezzar, who made that decree. But the God who was also with Daniel and his three Hebrew friends, he changed the whole situation. Then the reverse became the case. Attracting worldly conspiracy to yourself and to the entire church while taking risk in the Lord as part of your ordeal. Then that is Mordecai and Esther. Read Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 11. The next is attracting persecution to self and the church. You will attract persecution to yourself and to the church. Mordecai took the risk. That risk attracted persecution to himself and to the entire church, represented by the Israelis. The same is the case with Daniel and his three Hebrew friends. Then Christ and his earliest disciples, all these people, they took the risk, and that attracted persecution to them and to the church. Begin to read Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 11, Esther chapter 4, verse 1 to 2, Daniel chapter 3, verse 8 to 15, verse 27 to 30, Daniel chapter 6, verse 1 to 4, and verse 5 to 11. Then Christ and his earliest disciples, Mark chapter 10, verse 21 and to 28. The next one, instigating war of supremacy between God's people, and Satan and the world. So when you are taking risk in the Lord, you are instigating a war of supremacy between God and Satan, between the people of God and the Satanists, between the people of God and the people of the world. You are instigating war of supremacy. They want to impose their supremacy on the people of God, on you who is a risk taker in the Lord, who is a vehement disciple of Jesus Christ. The world, Satan, want to prove to you that they are superior to you. And the way to prove that, they want to impose it on you. That means they want to bring you down. They want to intimidate you into silence. They want to suppress you with intimidation. They want to overwhelm you with their own system. Because they believe, and that is their pursuit, and that is what they have signed for themselves. That is the contract they have signed for themselves, to keep on bringing the people of God down, to keep on projecting their perceived supremacy. So you, who is a godly champion, it is your duty, just as it is my duty also, for us to continue to be projecting our own supremacy. And how? That is by living in righteousness, by living in opposition to the system of the world, by standing in opposition to whatever they support, and to support whatever they oppose. because everything they oppose is what God supports, and everything they support is what God opposes. So we are to be like God, and that is when we are displaying the image of God with which we were created from the origin before sin and began to enter into humans and begin to pollute our system, begin to pollute our mindset, begin to pollute our belief system, and begin to pollute our habits, our acts, our interests, our desires. But this is a time of reformation. This is a time of the great revival. So, you child of God, you must be a revivalist from your own corner. Begin from inside of your bedroom. Begin from inside of your parlor. Begin from inside of your flat. Begin from your environment. Just start with one person. You may not go to worldwide range. Just start with one person. Never allow anybody, anytime, to influence you, to intimidate you with worldliness. Rather, let your light always shine, because wherever the light can shine, darkness disappears. The reason you are complaining about darkness around you, the darkness I mean, is about immorality. Your overwhelming immorality, you are complaining because that immorality is overwhelming you. It is because your light is dim. When your light shines, those with immorality, even they will no longer be attracted. You will no longer be attracted to them. Even when you will be inviting them, when they see the light being persistent and consistent, they will begin to run away. They have two options to make their choice from you. It is either they come into the light to begin to repent, to become like you, or they run away from you because they do not want to bear the price of coming out from the darkness into the marvelous light. So you as a believer, you must be influential. You must be influential. You must be influential. You must not be influenced with evil. Do not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with righteousness. That is you shining your light, letting your light shine, and you disappearing the darkness all around you with your illumination, with your character illumination, with your conceptual illumination, with your verbal illumination. Then with your desiring illumination, let the light shine from inside out of you, you child of God. So you must be ready. You must be ready. Another thing, you will attract worldly hatred to yourself and to the church. The world will hate you. They will hate the church. And I don't think I have to explain so much for everybody to understand, because it is evident just all before us. I was talking about attracting human and satanic wrath, and okay, I've gone beyond that. Okay, that is attracting worldly hatred. So Mordecai refusing to bow to Haman attracted worldly hatred against him. Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego refusing to bow to the golden image of Babylon aroused worldly hatred against them and against the entire church. They wanted to end the Christianity in those days. The Christianity we are practicing today is just the New Testament version of what Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Mordecai, Esther, what they practiced in those days. What Elijah, Moses, or what of all these faithful champions, the heroes of champions, what they practiced in those days. So in those days, it had its own name. But in this new dispensation, the name is just transformed to be called Christianity. It is the same thing. It is not about the ritualism. It is not about, but it is about the content, the habit, the way, the system. What do we stand for? Righteousness against evil, holiness against unholiness, worshiping of the true God and rejection of any other humanly or spiritual God, whatever. These are what these people stand. So when you are doing this, be rest assured, the world will hate you. Satan will hate you. But if you want everybody to love you, you are a failure. You are a failure. Even apart from Christianity, in whatever you are doing, is it in business? Is it in sports? Is it in whatever? In transaction? Is it in your working in the office? Whatever you are doing in life, whenever you are trying to please everybody and to make everybody love you, you are setting your platform for failure. Everybody will never love you. Everybody will never love you. And let me tell you the reason. When you are doing the bad thing, those who love the right thing will hate you. And when you are doing the right thing, those who love the bad thing will hate you, because the right thing you are doing will hinder them from the lucrative corruption they are investing into. And when you choose to go the bad way, those who love the right way will also hate you, because the bad way you are going is an interruption to their own rightfulness. So, for you to be successful in life, in this venture of taking risk in the Lord, as an example, never one day think of everybody hating you. Never one day think of those whose kingdom you are going to invade with righteousness, with the divine light in you. Never expect them to love you. You should know that them hating you is part of your encounter. And that is what will trigger their hatred to you, should become your stepping stone to a higher level, to greatness. And that is when the storm comes. You, as an able disciple, that is a time for you to display your skill, rather than to go into hiding, rather than to be intimidated by fear. They will never love you. They will hate you. So, Haman hated Mordecai. Haman hated the entire Israeli. And those who support Haman, they hated the entire Israeli. They conspired to annihilate them, not because they had done wrong, but because these are people who were taking risks in the Lord, who had believed that no other person, neither any other God, should be worshipped apart from the real and the righteous God, the only wise and true God of heaven, who is the creator and the owner of the whole universe, including the creator and the owner of King Ahasuerus and Haman himself. Why should not Haman bow to worship the real God and be expecting that a wise man should bow to worship him? Those who were worshiping Haman were foolish, but the wise people were those who refused to worship him. And that is the world system to you. The world system will make good to appear as evil and make evil to appear as being good. And they will begin to suppress those who advocate for goodness and begin to promote those who advocate evil, because they are inventors and investors of evil. That is the reason when you go worldwide, colonization is an invention and an investment of evil, and people make fortune out of it. Go to Africa, everywhere, corruption is an investment in the government. And those who want to bring good change are not allowed to be in the position of leadership. So, being a disciple is not compulsory that everybody will open a church. You can be a Christian disciple in the government sector. You can be a disciple in the business sector. You can be a Christian disciple. Wherever you go, you must go with the concept, the belief, and the practices of positivity against all negativity. And you must know that people will hate you for that. Have it in mind. Let that relax into your mind so that it will not be strange. It will not be strange to you. These are part of the ordeals of taking risk in the Lord. So now read Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 6, verse 8 to 11, Daniel chapter 3, 8 to 15, Daniel chapter 6, 4 to 11. Then I've made mention of persecuting the church. Now the next one, okay, I made mention of instigating war of superiority. So war of superiority. There was a reason of war of superiority. Who is superior between Haman and Mordecai? Who is superior between Haman and between his evil supporters? Who were superior between them and the Israelites? Haman wanted to prove his superiority over the entire Israel by commanding that all of them should be annihilated. Setting of war of superiority. While you are taking risk in the Lord, one of the ordeals is you may never know that you are setting a battle of superiority between you and the church together against the entire world. They want to suppress you, to impose their superiority on you. And it is your duty also to fight back. I'm not talking about carrying off guns and everything. I'm talking about being consistent, suppressing evil with good everywhere you are. That is the universal calling of every Christian. Christianity means suppressing evil with good. And that is what Jesus Christ absolutely represents. Anyone whom call on the name of Christ must be a person who suppresses evil with good in every respect of life. It doesn't matter who is involved and who is not involved. What matters is the reality and the targets. They establish the kingdom of God on earth. That is to establish God's principles and standards, starting from inside of my heart, inside of your heart, and transmitting the same into the hearts of others. There must be war of superiority. But in the end, we must be more than conquerors. Then Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 11, Daniel 3, 27 to 30, Daniel 6, 1 to 4, and 5 to 11. The next one, saddening the church and the world. You make both the world and the church sad. You make the world and the church sad. Mordecai made the world sad. Haman became sad. All of his supporters became sad because Mordecai refused to bow and worship him. The church became sad. Even among the Israelites, some people were murmuring. Some began to murmur this Mordecai. Even some begin to apportion blame to him. Say, why can't you just bow? Is it not what everybody does? Why can't you? Are you so special? Why are you bringing this tragedy to us? because of this your strong, even some people will begin to blame me. Just exactly what I experienced, even in my own church, everywhere I go. When you see the weaklings around you, the weaklings inside the church, when you are taking risks in the Lord, fear of the intimidation, fear of persecution will make even your own church member to turn and begin to blame you for taking risks in the Lord, for doing the right thing, rather than blaming the oppressors who refuse to bow to the right thing you are doing, but are suppressing the right thing you are doing and projecting their own effort. You will sadden even your own church members. You will sadden even at times, you will be surprised that the people on the top in the church will be against you, because it is not everybody on the top in the church is a disciple. It is not everybody on top is a risk taker. So when you are taking risk in the Lord, don't be surprised that even your own pastor, your own prophet, your own minister, your own evangelist, your own apostle, archbishop, and bishop, whatever title you may choose to give to them, they will begin to blame you for doing the right thing, right inside the church, because they themselves are afraid of doing the good thing. Your interest may not be their interest. Some of the people who have opened churches everywhere, they are only interested on the benevolence, on the dividends, on what they get from the church, what they get from the member. It doesn't matter. Even to them, if you ask them, where are you leading the church to? Are you leading them to hell or to heaven? Inside their mind, their answer will be, let them buy me private jets. Let them give me the money. Let me complete my mansion. Let them provide all these things. Then after that, anybody can go wherever he chooses to go. Anyone who wants to go to heaven, let him go to heaven. Anyone who wants to go to hell, let the person go to hell. Just buy me private jets. That is my own concern. Just help me. Let contribute your money. Let us build that 50 acres of land for so and so whatever. That is, and you will be surprised. They will turn against you. But you, child of God, if you want to be among the champions, the eagles do not always flock together. The eagles fly individually. There are individual decisions, there are individual steps you must take in this end time we are into. And if you cannot take those individual decisions and steps, you cannot really go far. Denominational limitation, pastoral limitation from leadership structure will hold you in captivity. And your potential, your zeal, your inspiration, your revelation will be dying in you. And in the end, you may see yourself achieving nothing. This is a very critical moment. Begin to pray. Begin to ask God, which way do you want me to oppress? And begin to function based on what God wants you to do, and not based on what your own pastor wants you to do. I'm not talking about beginning to disrespect your pastor. No, there is a great difference between disrespect and fear. There is a great difference between respect and also fear. Respect your pastor, but do not fear him. Do not be afraid of your pastor, who cannot be afraid of what God will do. And I have vowed to myself that I can never be loyal to any man of God, any woman of God who is not loyal to Jesus Christ. And that is the decision of a true disciple. This is a kind of decision you begin to make. If that pastor is not loyal to Jesus Christ and you have warned him repeatedly, there is no need to keep on being loyal to him. It is a time for you to have a second thought, for you to have a second move. I am not teaching rebellion, but I am teaching divine revolution. This is a time of revolution, revival, and reformation. There is no better time than now. Then, saddening the church and the world. Now, read Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 11. Esther chapter 4, verse 1 to 2. The next, intimidations from the enemies. Intimidation from the enemies. When Moses wanted to go and deliver the Israelites from Egypt, it wasn't just easy. Pharaoh tried to intimidate him. Even the more he demanded, the more the Israelites demanded to be free, the more their oppression was increased. Daniel was intimidated. He said he will not bow to that golden image. They intimidated him, throwing him into a lion's den. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were intimidated. Mordecai was intimidated. The entirety of the Israelites in the land of Shushan were intimidated. But Mordecai and Esther, who were the champion of their own people, the risk takers of their own people, they never bowed to that intimidation. Many Christians cannot function effectively today because they have bowed and surrendered to intimidations of the enemies. Goliath was intimidating the Israelites, including intimidating David. All of the Israelite army, they succumbed to Goliath's intimidation. But the reason Goliath was brought down, defeated, and his head cut off is because David refused to bow to the intimidation of that Goliath. So, are you among those who succumb and surrender to intimidation, or are you among those who suppress intimidation to forge ahead? So you must choose where you belong, and you must begin to act based on where you belong. It is not just choosing, it is not just about believing, it is about acting it out. And that is what is called the living faith. When your faith is not lively, your faith is dead. And the faith that is dead is the faith without action. You may believe in everything you want to believe, but you may not act towards it. It becomes a dead faith. But when you believe and begin to act upon it, and more especially believing in the right things and acting upon the right things, that is what living faith is all about. Like then, intimidation from the enemies. Esther chapter 3, verse 1 to 11. 1 Samuel chapter 17, 23 to 25, and verse 31 to 38, and verse 41 to 44. The next one, household malevolence. Even your own household members will become your enemies. Household malevolence. Household malevolence. Your own household members can turn against you when you are taking risk in the Lord. David and Eliab. 1 Samuel chapter 17, 20 to 30. Then David and Saul. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 6 to 11. David's own eldest brother Eliab began to shun him, began to reprimand him, began to try to hush him up, telling him, why were you trying to take that step? Who are you? Who gave you the training? What experience do you have? What qualification do you have? You are only sent to bring us food here, and you want to use it as an opportunity to come and watch what is going on in the camp. You little boy, come and get a weapon. David answered him, you are beginning to look my trouble again. What have I done wrong to you now? Ordeals in taking risk in the Lord. When you are taking risk in the Lord, when you have taken your ground to become a true disciple of Jesus Christ, you may be surprised that even some of your own family members will turn against you. Some of them will not see anything that qualifies you to be among those. Some people will not see anything significant about you. So, but it doesn't matter whether they see it or not. It doesn't matter how your household members sees you. It doesn't matter what they believe about you. Some may be doing it out of jealousy. Whatever reason may be the reason for their antagonism against you. But your focus should be, how does God view you? Whom does God say you are? It is not about what your father said you are that is contrary to what God has said you are. What really matters in your life is what God says you are. And one of the reasons many people are not active as Christians, even outside of Christendom, is because they have not really realized what God said they are, whom God said they are. And when there is no realization, there can never be activities. They can never act based on what God and whom God has said that they really are. But David could realize whom God has said he was. Eliab was seeing a small boy, an ordinary shepherd in David, but God was seeing in David a man of faith, a man with weak instruments as stone and flint that can destroy the giant. God was in a man after his own heart in David, but Saul was in David as a little boy, as an upcoming rival who will in the future take over his throne. So to Saul, it doesn't matter what God wanted to achieve through David. Saul could discern and perceive it, but he could not bear it. So he was fighting tooth and nail to bring David down, to kill him, so that he will not live to come and take over the throne. But God was protecting David all through until after the death of Saul. Then he was officially coronated to become the king of Israel. So household enmity will become one of your ordeals, and you must have household enemies. These are what you must know, and these are the battles you must face. And also, when you hold God in that. Joseph is another example. There are many people. Even Jesus Christ, when he began his ministry, some of his family members never believed in him. Apostle James, the author of the book of King James, is Jesus' half brother, who never believed in him, who never believed in his ministry. But his resurrection and his ascension back into heaven became his conviction to believe that, yes, this is really the Messiah. That is when he joined the evangelical team, and he became one of the authors of the book, which is the book of James. The last but not the least, God chastising his people. So some of the ordeals you may encounter will be ordeals that you may not understand, that it is God's means of chastising his people. Many people are blaming Christians, blaming God of Christianity for sending the Israelis to go and annihilate the ungodly people and take over their land. And to some people, God is an evil God. God is a wicked God. Why should he order his people to go and take that kind of an adventure? But they fail to tell the world that God also used the ungodly people to punish the Israelites, to take them into slavery at times, to ravage their lands, even covet their wives by force. Then what would they say? Is God wicked for using the unbelievers to punish his own people? But the truth is, God can never be wicked. God can never be partial. God is a just and a fair God. That is, the sinners do not deserve to be alive, if not by God's mercy. So the hidden nations surrounding the Israelis at those days were the typical representatives of the sinners all over the world. And God was empowering his own people. This is to let us know that there are responsibilities God will give to us and empower us to execute. David, seeing this in the realm of prophecy, say that the righteous shall inherit the land. So the Israelis can also become sinners. Even when there were no righteous people available, God also used sinners to punish them, to derogate them, to humiliate them, to let them know, to teach them the lesson that they are nothing, and all the while they were prevailing and achieving victory was because of his grace upon them. And if not by his grace, they are nothing, and the enemies can ravage on them anytime, any day, when they lose the glory from him, which contains his power of victory, his presence, and his power of prosperity, of success, the power that makes them to go to war and fight and come back victoriously. So, at times, may we not be confused when we see God's people suffering. First of all, may we begin to inquire. Daniel in the land of Babylon began to pray after the Israelites had been in slavery in the land of Babylon for 1 year. Daniel began to pray. He said, God, why not you releasing your own people? He was praying. He thought that everything was over. It is then a message was released to him by an angel who was fought and delayed for 21 days. But when the message was finally released, and the message was not about freeing the Israelites from their slavery, but it was about encouraging Daniel as an individual to stop worrying himself according to divine and spiritual arrangements. The Israelites must remain in slavery for 70 years. So they had only gone through 1 year. So it was remaining 69 years starting from that time. That was a divine chastisement. These are part of the ordeal. Even while you are taking the risk, you may begin to wonder, why are the people of God suffering and suffering? When you investigate like Daniel and pray and ask God and inquire, you may know that it is because even the people of God are not doing what they are supposed to be doing, and they have been doing the wrong things. And even while participating in many activities in and outside of the church, the presence of God is not really with them. May God bless you for listening. I am ending this program right away. I remain your serviceable servant, evangelist